Everyone in Omalika Tech Tower thought the cleaner had made a mistake. It was Monday morning in Asabi City, a busy modern Nigerian town where people moved fast and talked even faster. The company lobby looked like a movie scene. Glass doors, shiny floors, big screens showing ads, security guards in neat uniforms, workers in suits holding laptops and coffee. Then the cleaner walked in. She wore a faded blue overall and a headscarf tied low. She pushed a small cleaning cart with a mop, a bucket, and a bottle of floor spray. Her back looked tired, but her eyes were sharp like someone counting everything. At first, nobody cared. Cleaners were almost invisible here. People stepped around them like they were chairs. But then the cleaner stopped in the middle of the lobby, looked straight at the giant portrait on the wall, and smiled. The portrait was of the company's CEO, Madam Zainab Danjuma, the richest woman in Asabi City. The woman who owned Omalika Tech, the biggest phone and software company in the region. Under the portrait were bold words. Zainab Danjuma, builder of dreams. The cleaner's smile grew wider, like she was greeting an old friend. A young receptionist named Leila noticed. Leila was new, and she still noticed things other people ignored. She watched the cleaner stare at the portrait for too long. "Madam," Leila called softly, trying to be polite. "Please, cleaners enter from the side door. Staff rules." The cleaner turned and looked at Leila. Her voice was gentle, almost like a grandmother telling a story by moonlight. "My daughter," she said, "rules are good. But sometimes rules hide the truth." Leila frowned. "Truth?" Before Leila could ask again, the cleaner walked toward the elevator that led to the executive floors. Those floors were not for everybody. Even some managers were scared to go there. A security guard stepped in front of her quickly. "Hey, cleaner. You can't go up there." The cleaner did not shout. She did not beg. She simply reached into her pocket and brought out a small, old brass key on a ring. The guard stared. His eyes widened. That key was special. Everybody in the building knew it. It was the CEO's private access key. The one that opened the executive elevator without a card. How did you get that?" the guard stammered. The cleaner tilted her head. "It belongs to the owner." The guard swallowed hard and moved aside like the floor had turned hot under his feet. People in the lobby slowed down. Some stopped walking. One man even dropped his coffee a little, but he was too shocked to care. The cleaner entered the executive elevator alone. The doors closed softly, like a secret being swallowed. Leila stood frozen behind the desk, her heart beating fast. Only one thought hit her mind like thunder. That cleaner, who is she really? And upstairs, behind the shining glass offices, someone was about to learn that the day would not go the way they planned. The elevator climbed. Floor 10. Floor 15. Floor 20. At floor 25, the doors opened to the executive floor, where the air always smelled like expensive perfume and new furniture. The cleaner stepped out and walked calmly down the corridor. Inside the CEO's office, Madam Zainab Danjuma was supposed to be on a video call with investors from the United States. That was the story everybody believed. But the real Madam Zainab was not on any call. She was lying on a couch in a quiet private room behind her office. Her face looked thinner than the portrait downstairs. Her lips were dry. Her breathing was slow. Beside her stood her doctor, Dr. Sefi Mensah, a Ghanaian man with kind eyes and a serious voice. "Madam," he said gently, "you have to rest. Your body is fighting too much." Madam Zainab tried to sit up. She waved her hand like she was pushing away bad news. "I don't have time for rest, doctor." Dr. Sefi hesitated. Then he spoke the truth he had been holding like a heavy pot. "You are dying, Madam Zainab." The words did not sound loud, but they landed in the room like a stone dropped in a quiet river. Madame Zainab closed her eyes. For a moment, she looked like a strong tree finally hearing the axe. How long? She asked. Dr. Sefyu's voice softened even more. It could be months. It could be less. The sickness is fast. Madame Zainab opened her eyes again. They were not full of fear. They were full of thinking. Then I must finish what I started, she said. The doctor sighed. Your family can take over. Your board can choose a new CEO. Madame Zainab gave a small laugh, but it held no joy. My family, she repeated. Doctor, my family loves my money more than my name. And my board members love power like children love sweet biscuits. If I leave this company to the wrong person, everything I built will fall. Staff will suffer. Customers will suffer. Even the young people who dream because of this company will suffer. She sat up slowly, holding her chest as pain pinched her. Still, her voice stayed firm. I need a successor with a clean heart, she said. Not just a sharp brain. Dr. Sefyu looked worried. How will you find such a person quickly? Madame Zainab glanced at the mirror on the wall. In it, she could see herself, rich, famous, respected, and yet, alone. Then she remembered something her late grandmother used to say in their village in Kogi State. If you want to know who truly loves the yam, watch them when they think nobody is looking. Madame Zainab smiled faintly. I will watch them, she said. From where? The doctor asked. From the floor, she answered. From the place people never respect. From the place people never notice. Dr. Sefyu blinked. Madam, what do you mean? Madame Zainab reached into a drawer and pulled out a plain headscarf and a faded blue overall. Clothes that did not look like anything a billionaire would wear. The doctor's mouth opened. No. You can't mean. I do, she said. I will pretend to be a poor cleaner in my own company. I will walk among them. I will listen. I will see who is honest when they think the CEO is far away. Dr. Sefyu looked terrified. That is dangerous. Someone could insult you. Someone could hurt you. And your health? Madame Zainab raised a hand. Nobody will hurt me. People only hurt those they can see. As a cleaner, I will be invisible. That is my shield. The doctor tried again. But why not just interview candidates? Madame Zainab shook her head. People can lie in interviews. They can dress well and speak big grammar. But they cannot pretend for long when they are tired, angry, or tempted. She stood slowly, using the wall for support. I built this company from one small shop and one borrowed laptop, she said. I did not build it with lies. I will not leave it in lies. That afternoon, while the company thought Madame Zainab was busy with investors, a private driver took her through the back gate. She wore the cleaner's uniform, covered her face lightly, and held her shoulders like an ordinary worker. Her personal assistant, a sharp woman named Ifeoma, was the only one who knew. Ifeoma had tears in her eyes. Madam, Ifeoma whispered, if they find out. They won't, Madame Zainab said. And if they do, then that will also show me something. She entered the building through the side door like any cleaner. She took a mop. She pushed her cart. She walked the halls that smelled like money and pride. And as she moved, she washed. Some workers stepped over dirty paper and didn't care. Some dropped trash and didn't look back. Some spoke to cleaners like they were talking to air. But then, on the third floor, she saw something that made her pause. A young man in a simple shirt and tie stopped walking, picked up a piece of paper from the floor, and threw it into the trash. Then he turned to the cleaner, to her, and smiled. Good morning, Ma, he said respectfully. Please, the floor is wet there. Don't stress your back too much. Madame Zainab stared at him. Most people didn't greet cleaners. This one did. "What is your name?" she asked. The young man adjusted his ID card. It read, "Chidi Nwofa." "My name is Chidi, Mo," he said. "I work in operations." "Operations," Madam Zainab repeated softly, as if tasting the word. Chidi nodded. "Yes, Mo. I'm still junior, but I'm learning." Madam Zainab watched him walk away. Something warm moved in her chest, not pain this time, but interest. "Maybe the drum I'm looking for is not in the king's palace," she thought, remembering another old saying. "Maybe it is in the marketplace." She pushed her cart forward again. She had come to find a successor. But she did not know that before the week ended, a shocking test would appear. One that would pull out the true hearts of the people around her like a hand pulling stones from rice. And at the top floor, in the executive boardroom, the most greedy man in the company, Mr. Connor Boko, was already planning something wicked. He stood by the window, looking down at the city like he owned it. "The CEO is sick," he murmured to himself. "If she dies, this company will be mine." He turned and smiled slowly. "And nobody will stop me." Downstairs, the cleaner tightened her grip on her mop handle, walked into the corridor, and unknowingly stepped closer to the storm waiting ahead. The next morning, a company-wide message popped up on every staff email, every phone, every computer screen. It was short. It was strange. And it made the whole building go quiet. Emergency meeting. All staff must attend. Top floor hall. 9 a.m. sharp. Madam Zainab, dressed as the cleaner, read it too. Her heart beat once. Then twice. Because she knew she did not send that message. And whoever did, was about to force the game to begin before she was ready. The emergency meeting turned Omalika Tech Tower upside down. By 8:30 a.m., workers were rushing in from every direction. Some were confused. Some were afraid. Some were excited. Messages flew across phones. "Did you see the email? Who sent it? Is Madam Zainab dead? Is someone being fired?" Madam Zainab read the message again while standing near the cleaning store on the third floor. She was dressed like the cleaner everyone thought she was. Her hands trembled slightly, but her face stayed calm. "I did not send this," she whispered to herself. She pushed her cart forward and joined the flow of people heading upstairs. Cleaners were not supposed to attend staff meetings, but nobody noticed her. They never did. On the top floor, the big hall filled quickly. The room was bright, with long glass windows and neat rows of chairs. At the front was a raised stage with a large screen behind it. The company logo glowed softly. Mr. Connor Boko stood near the stage, talking loudly to two board members. He wore a dark suit and a smile that did not reach his eyes. "This is serious," he said, shaking his head like a worried father. "We must protect the company." One board member nodded. "We are counting on you, Connor." Madam Zainab watched him from the back of the hall. Her heart felt heavy. So the snake has started to move, she thought. She took a seat at the far corner, close to the wall, and rested her mop against her leg. Around her, people whispered. At exactly 9 a.m., the lights dimmed slightly. The screen behind the stage turned on. Mr. Connor walked to the front and raised his hands. "Good morning, everyone," he said. "Thank you for coming on such short notice." The room went quiet. "As you all know," he continued, "Madam Zainab has been unwell. This morning, we received information that her condition has worsened." A sharp breath moved through the hall like wind. "We do not know when she will return to work," Connor said. "So the board has asked me to temporarily oversee operations." Madam Zainab's fingers tightened around the mop handle. "Lies," she thought. "Sweet lies." Connor went on, speaking with confidence. "From today, there will be changes. Some departments will be merged. Some staff roles will be reviewed. People shifted in their seats. Fear rose like smoke. At the back, Chidi Nwofa sat quietly, listening. He frowned. Something did not feel right. Connor cleared his throat. Also, we will be cutting some cost. This includes non-essential staff. A hand went up. It was Chidi. Connor paused, surprised. Yes. Chidi stood. His voice was calm but firm. Sir, with respect, has the board approved all these changes? Connor smiled tightly. Young man, this is not the time for questions. Chidi did not sit down. Sir, Madam Zainab always said questions at the time. Especially when people are afraid. Murmurs filled the room. Connor's eyes hardened. Sit down, he snapped. Chidi slowly sat, but his face showed he was not convinced. From her corner, Madam Zainab felt a quiet pride rise in her chest. This one has courage, she thought. But courage alone is not enough. The meeting ended quickly. No clear answers. Only fear. As people stood to leave, Connor added one more thing. All cleaners must report to the facility office after this, he said casually. We are reviewing contracts. Madam Zainab's heart skipped. He wants to remove the shadows, she realized. Because shadows see too much. Cleaners gathered in a small room later that morning. Some were old. Some were young. All looked worried. A supervisor read names from a list. You. Contract ended. One woman cried quietly. When the supervisor reached Madam Zainab, he paused. You're new, he said. What's your name? She bowed her head slightly. Mama Z, she replied. He shrugged. We don't need extra cleaners. You can go. The room felt cold. Madam Zainab looked around. These people worked hard. They were invisible, but the company ran because of them. I will go, she said softly. But please, let them stay. The supervisor laughed. Who are you to speak? She met his eyes. For a second, he felt something strange, like standing before someone bigger than him. He shook it off. Security, he called. Escort her out. 2 guards stepped forward. Before they could touch her, a voice spoke from the doorway. Stop. It was Chidi. Everyone turned. Sir, Chidi said to the supervisor, she didn't do anything wrong. This is not your department, the supervisor replied. Chidi stepped closer. Madam Zainab taught us that dignity is not a department. The guards hesitated. Madam Zainab stared at Chidi. Her throat tightened. He is risking his job, she thought. For someone he thinks is nothing. The supervisor scoffed. Fine. Take her. But don't say I didn't warn you. Chidi turned to Madam Zainab. Mama Z, please come with me. They walked out together. In a quiet stairwell, Chidi stopped. I'm sorry, he said. Things are changing too fast. Madam Zainab smiled gently. You have a good heart, my son. He scratched his head, embarrassed. My mother was a cleaner. People treated her badly. I promised myself I wouldn't be like that. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Madam Zainab felt a sharp pain in her chest. Her breath caught. Chidi noticed. Mama Z, are you okay? She leaned against the wall. Just tired, she whispered. But the pain grew. Her vision blurred. Chidi panicked. We need help. She grabbed his sleeve. No hospital, she said quickly. Please. He looked confused. But. Please, she repeated, her voice weak. Chidi nodded and helped her sit on the stairs. He gave her water from his bottle. After a while, Her breathing slowed. "You should rest," he said softly. She nodded. "Thank you." From the corner above, someone washed. It was Connor Boko. His eyes narrowed. Why is an operations boy protecting a cleaner? He wondered. Something clicked in his mind. A dangerous thought. That evening, Connor made a call. "Find out everything about that cleaner," he said. "And that boy too." Night fell over Asibi City. Lights blinked on across the skyline. Madame Zainab returned home quietly with her driver. Dr. Sefi waited anxiously. "You should stop this," he said after checking her. "Your body is getting weaker." She closed her eyes. "I am closer now," she said. Closer to the truth. The next morning, a new notice appeared on the company board. Internal audit announcement. All departments affected. Chidi read it and frowned. Madame Zainab, dressed as Mama Z, read it too. Because she knew what audits did. They exposed lies. And they made enemies desperate. Somewhere upstairs, Connor smiled to himself. "If the cleaner is hiding something," he said, "I will flush it out." And as the sun rose higher, the test that would change Omalika Tech forever quietly began. The internal audit shook Omalika Tech like heavy rain on a weak roof. By noon, files were being opened. Computers were checked. Emails were searched. People whispered in corners. Some staff looked nervous. Some acted too calm. Madame Zainab moved quietly through the building with her cleaning cart. She listened more than she spoke. That was her strength now. In the operations office, Chidi sat at his desk, reading numbers on his screen. The audit team had asked him to submit reports from the past 2 years. As he walked, something did not add up. Payments approved twice. Suppliers paid for jobs never done. Small amounts, hidden well, but many of them. Chidi's heart beat faster. This is not right, he thought. He checked the approval names. Most of them led back to one office. Mr. Connor Boko. Chidi swallowed hard. Connor was powerful. Speaking up could destroy his career. He remembered his mother's tired face after long days of cleaning floors. "Do what is right," she always said. "Even when your knees are shaking." Chidi printed the report and stood up. At the same time, Madame Zainab was mopping near the executive corridor. She heard Connor's voice through a half-open door. "Delete those files," Connor hissed into his phone. "Now." Before the auditors reach finance. Madame Zainab paused. Her grip tightened. "So it is you," she thought sadly. Connor stepped out of his office and almost bumped into her. "Hey," he snapped. "Can't you see?" "I'm sorry, sir," she said softly, lowering her eyes. Connor looked at her closely. Too closely. "You," he said slowly. "You're the cleaner everyone is talking about." She nodded. "Yes, sir." His lips curved into a thin smile. "You move around too much. Be careful. Curiosity can be dangerous." She met his eyes calmly. "Only for those with something to hide." Connor's smile vanished. He leaned closer. "Know your place." She said nothing. But her silence was louder than words. An hour later, the audit team called for a general staff meeting. Everyone gathered again in the top hall. Tension filled the room like thick air before a storm. Madame Zainab stood at the back, leaning lightly on her mop. Connor stood at the front, arms crossed, pretending to be calm. The head auditor cleared his throat. "We have found serious irregularities," he said. "Money misuse. False approvals. Abuse of power." Gasps moved through the hall. "We traced most of it to one executive office," the auditor continued. "Mr. Connor Boko." All eyes turned. Connor laughed loudly. "This is nonsense," he said. "I built this company with Madam Zainab. I would never steal from it." The auditor raised a file. "We have records." Connor's face darkened. "Records can be forged." Before the auditor could speak again, a voice rose from the crowd. "I have more records." It was Chidi. The room froze. Chidi walked forward, hands shaking but step steady. "These are from operations. Payments approved twice. Projects that never happened." Connor turned red. "Sit down," he shouted. "You are a junior staff." Chidi did not stop. "Madam Zainab taught us that truth has no rank." Madam Zainab closed her eyes for a brief moment. Her chest hurt, but her heart felt full. Connor pointed at the guards. "Remove him." The guards hesitated. Then a soft voice spoke from the back. "Leave him." Everyone turned. The cleaner stepped forward. People laughed nervously. "What is the cleaner doing?" someone whispered. Madam Zainab walked slowly, each step careful. When she reached the front, she straightened her back. "Enough," she said. Connor laughed again. "This is madness." She reached for her headscarf and removed it. Then she removed the faded overall. Underneath was a simple but elegant dress. The room went silent. Some people recognized her face before their minds could catch up. A board member's mouth fell open. "Madam Zainab." The cleaner smiled gently. "Yes," she said. "It is me." The hall exploded in noise. People stood up. Some bowed their heads. Some cried. Some looked ashamed. Connor staggered back. "No, this is a trick." Madam Zainab turned to him. "You wanted my seat," she said calmly. "I wanted the truth." She faced the staff. "I came as a cleaner because I wanted to see who you are when you think power is far away." She looked at Chidi. "This young man saw me as a human being." Then she looked at Connor. "You saw me as a threat." Security stepped forward. Connor shouted, "You're dying. You can't do this." Madam Zainab's voice softened. "I am dying. That is why I must do this." She turned to the board. "Remove him. Let the law handle the rest." Connor was escorted out, shouting until the doors closed. The hall became quiet again. Madam Zainab's legs weakened. Chidi rushed forward and supported her. She smiled at him. "Thank you, my son." The staff watched in silence as the truth settled like dust after a storm. Later that evening, Madam Zainab sat in her private office with Chidi. The city lights glowed outside the window. "You showed courage," she said. "And kindness." Chidi shook his head. "I only did what felt right." She nodded. "That is what leaders do." She placed a folder on the table. Inside was a document titled Successor Evaluation. Chidi looked up, confused. Madam Zainab smiled softly, though pain flickered across her face. "This company needs a heart," she said. "And hearts are trained, not inherited." She leaned back, breathing slowly. "But the journey is not finished," she added. Outside the office, sirens wailed faintly in the distance as Connor was taken away. Inside, a young man sat before a woman who had tested the world by becoming invisible. And somewhere between the truth revealed and the future waiting, a final decision still hung in the air.